Welcome to Preparing an Illustrator File for the Laser Cutter, presented by the Mount Royal University Library Maker Studio. In this video, you will learn how to prepare your Adobe Illustrator file for the Laser Cutter tool in the Maker Studio. For more project ideas, resources, and information, you can go to the Maker Studio website, which is found on the Mount Royal University Library website under Spaces. In this video, you will learn what cutting and engraving is, how to set up a document in Adobe Illustrator, how to modify the designs for cut lines, and how to modify the designs for engraving, and also how to submit your file to the Maker Studio. With the laser cutter, you can cut or you can engrave. The laser cutter vaporizes particles using accelerated photons, creating cutting paths through material. You can cut through things like wood, plastic, acrylic, paper, cardboard, felt, fabric, only up to about a thickness of 3/4 of an inch for some material. For engraving, the laser cutter uses less power and it only vaporizes the top layer of the material rather than cutting all the way through. Okay, let's get started setting up our file to be used in the laser cutter in the Maker Studio. So I'm going to be opening up an Illustrator file. So what I want to do here is I want to choose Art and Illustration. And then I'm going to change this to inches. And then it's already on RGB, but if it's on CMYK color, just change it to RGB. This is the measurements of the postcard, like the default, but what you should do is you should change this measurement to the size of your material that you'll be putting into the laser cutter. So I'm just going to put in 8.5 inches by 11 inches, like a piece of paper. I don't actually have a material, but just imagine that I have a piece of wood that I'm going to take into the Maker Studio and I'm going to get a coaster etched out of it, and it's the size of a piece of paper. So that's what I want my artboard to be, is the size of the material I had. If I had a piece of plywood and it was, 6 inches by 4 inches, I would put that here. All right, and then we hit create. All right, and here's our document. So I want you to imagine that this document, which is 8.5 by 11, is the size of my material that I'm going to put into the laser cutter. So if I had a piece of plywood, let's say, and it was 4 inches by 6 inches, that's the size that I would make this artboard. And you can change the size by clicking on this little tool icon, and then you can change it up here. So I'd put 6 by 4, whatever my material size is. And that way, I'm just going to hit escape to get out of here. That way, when I'm creating my design, I can see what it's going to be in relation to the size of my material, and I can make sure everything fits properly. Okay, so I've actually already created a design, and here it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start from here. If you need help making this, not making a design like your design in Illustrator, we have a video on how to do image tracing in Illustrator. It has lots of tips and tricks in there. There's also documentation and different resources for you on the Maker Studio website. So if you go there, you should be able to find a lot of different resources to help you actually create your design. But for this video, we're just going to start off from here, and I'll show you how to prepare your design for the laser cutter. So I've got my finished design here, and how the laser cutter works is it can recognize RGB color, and we have made settings for specific colors to do specific functions. So we have RGB red set up for cutting and RGB blue set up for etching. So what you can do is select the parts of your design you want cut and change it to the specifications for the laser cutter software. So I'm making a coaster. So this circle that's around here, I actually want the laser cutter to cut right through it. So I'm going to click on it, And so it's selected. You can see it's selected because there's a bounding box around it. And I'm going to bring up the stroke. So anything you want cut, it has to have no fill, and it has to have, you can see there's no fill here, and the stroke has to be RGB red, and the stroke size has to be 0.0002. It's very important. So I'm going to come up here to where it says stroke. Now, if you don't have this toolbar here like I do, just go over to this drop down. Mine says Essentials Classic, but if you don't have this toolbar, yours might say Essentials. Just click on Essentials Classic, and then you'll be able to use this toolbar like I am. So for the stroke size, it needs to be, like I said, 0.0002, and then enter. Okay, so that's extremely thin. And it makes sense because it's a laser that's going to be cutting it. So what I would recommend you do is make sure that your design is almost done, or pretty much done, before you start adding cut lines and etching into it, because it's really hard, especially when I turn this red, it's going to be really hard to see this stroke, this path. So get your design exactly the way you want it to be first, and then put in your cut lines and your etching. All right, so we've got the size, right? It's 0.0002, right? Very thin. But now I'm going to select it again. We need it to be RGB red. And how you do that is you hover over the stroke icon, double click it, and then over here it says RGB. And it says this because that's how we set it up in our document creation. So R is for red, G is for green, and B is for blue. So we want R to be, just go backspace and 255, okay? And that will turn it red. So you can see it's red here. There you go. So this line now, when this file is put into the laser cutter software, the laser cutter will know that it needs to cut along this path. All right, so let's take a look at the rest. So this image here, I would like it to be engraved. So I'm going to select it. It's saying it has no stroke and it has black fill. So it's fine. Actually, it doesn't, the stroke or fill doesn't matter. It just needs to be a specific color, and it doesn't need to be a specific size because it's etching. So you can have fill, you can have no fill, what matters, or you can have stroke, no stroke. You probably want to have fill. But what matters is it's RGB blue. So I'm going to double click on the fill icon, and then I'm going to go to the B for blue, and I'm going to put 255. Okay, and then click OK, and that makes it RGB blue. Now, if I had stroke, I would bring that forward and I would change that as well to RGB blue. Okay, so now the font here, I'm going to engrave it, but I just wanted to show you an example where I could actually, there we go, I could make it cut lines. So what I could do is I could select it, and then you could do a thing where you create outlines. So when it's selected, when your text is selected, you go to type, and then you go to create outlines. And what that does is change it from text. It's not editable anymore as text, and creates outlines. So if I zoom in here, you'll be able to see it has a stroke and it has a fill. So what I could do is I actually could have it have no fill and have it have stroke. There we go. And I could make this stroke 0.0002 and RGB red, and the laser cutter would cut around here. And then I could cut this text right out of here. But if you're doing text like that, it's important to remember that like these little circles in the B, they're going to fall out with the rest of the B. Okay, so think about like stencils for text, right? You'd want to have a little bridge holding everything on, and you probably would have to put that in yourself or find some text that has that already in. So that way the little tiny, like this dot and the A, that would be gone with the rest of it, and it would just be a big letter-sized hole, right? So I'm not actually going to make these cut lines. I'm going to make them engraving. So I'm just going to undo Control Z, what I did, and then I'm going to select that one, hold Shift, and select this one as well. There we go. And I'm going to bring the fill forward, double click it, and change it to blue, so 255. There we go. Now, something important, little tip to help you out. If you have traced your image and done it in black and white, what will happen is your Illustrator will turn your color into grayscale. So when you click on these three lines here on your color panel, grayscale will be selected. So if you're trying to turn your stuff into RGB red or RGB blue and it's just going gray, that's why. So you just have to click on these three lines and then select RGB, and then you'll be able to make it RGB red or RGB blue. Okay, so I can send this file now to the Maker Studio, and everything that's blue will be engraved and everything that's this red will be cut. So it's important to remember though, it has to be RGB red and RGB blue. Okay, now that we have our file ready to be used in the laser cutter, I'm going to show you how to submit it to the Maker Studio. So here's the library's website, so the Mount Royal University Library, and you just go to Spaces and then Maker Studio. If you go down here to File Submission, you'll see we have 3 different file submissions. Just click on Submit Laser Cutter File and your form opens up. All right, so it's important to read this information about booking. You'll put in your email address here and your name. There we go, and you'll put in if you're a student or faculty, you can put in what your project is, academic or personal, put in your class code, and then so what this is saying to you is that you need to provide a safety data sheet as well as the bill of sale for us to use your material in the laser cutter. Because the laser cutter is literally burning the material, it's important that we know that it's safe and it won't cause any damage to the machine and it won't hurt anybody. So safety data sheet can be found online through the company of the material that you have. So let's say you bought some plywood from Trotec. Trotec has a whole list of safety data sheets on their website for every single material that they supply. So if you bought something from Home Depot, you have to look at the company that created your material and then look them up online and find the safety data sheet for your specific material. And for the bill of sale, that's a picture that we need of your receipt. That's because we need to know that your material is new. If it's old, we're not sure. It could have something on it that you're not aware of, could have nails in it, a finish that you didn't know, which could be flammable. So it's important that it's new so that we know it's exactly what it looks like. So you're just going to submit the link for your safety data sheet here, and then also provide the picture of your bill of sale. So you just have to take a picture of it and then upload it here. And then you'll choose here the material that you'll be using, how thick it is, and whether you require the Rotary Tool. So the Rotary Tool is a special attachment that we put into the laser cutter, which allows us to engrave something while it's turning. So things like glasses or a bottle or a vase or a mug. So if you're not etching on something like that, then you probably will not require the Rotary Tool. Okay, so this is all of the stuff we just went over in this video. If you have any more questions or you need to know, you're not sure, you can always contact the Maker Studio staff to make sure your file is okay. And like I said earlier, we also have a lot more resources on our website besides this video. So when you think you're good to go, you just submit your file. It needs to be an Illustrator file. And then we will take a look at it and make sure that it's okay. If it needs some changes, we'll contact you. And once everything is good, we'll make an appointment with you to come in, and you and the Maker Studio staff will use the laser cutter with your material. And when you're done filling out this form, you just have to click on Submit. If If you have further questions, you can contact the Maker Studio at makerstudio@mtroyal.ca, or you can email the Maker Studio staff.